welcome to an episode of Rediscovered Movies. I'm your host, Nomfanelo Malloy. So today I'm joined by a special guest. It's her first time on the podcast. She is a writer. So please welcome Juliana.
Hello, everyone. I'm Juliana. I'm from Brazil, and I like writing all kinds of things, including scripts.
So the film that we'll be discussing today is The Worst Person in the World, which is a 2021 Norwegian romantic comedy drama film that is part of the Oslo trilogy. It is directed and co-written by Joachim Trier, who's known for films such as Procter and Thelma. The film is co-written by Eskid Voigt. The film stars Renate Reinsve, Anders Danielsen Lee, and Herbert Nordrum. Here is the synopsis. A young woman battles indecisiveness as she traverses the troubled waters of her love life and struggles to find her career path. The film premiered at the 2021 Cannes Film Festival, where Renate won the Best Actress award. It was had a limited release in North America on February 4th, 2022, and it expanded in the coming weeks. So the budget is 5.6 million. So in terms of box office, it made over 7.8 million worldwide. It opened domestically number 20 with $138,424 in four theaters. It was beaten by films including Jackass Forever, Moonfall, and Spider-Man No Way Home. In terms of critical reception, it has a 4.1 rating on Letterboxd. It was nominated for two Oscars for International Feature Film and Original Screenplay. At the time of this recording, it is streaming on Canopy and is available on demand, so check your local provider. Right, so we could get into the first discoveries. So, Juliana, do you want to start?
Hey, I actually first discovered this movie through you, when you
Oh,
suggested
okay.
it.
Okay.
So that was my first contact, and I
Mhm,
did some digging to find it,
mhm,
and I found it. I found it online, and I watched it a couple of times, and I'll share a bit more of what I found, what I liked and disliked about it.
mhm.
But it was an interesting discovery. Let's start with that.
Okay, that's great. So for me, I first heard about this movie during the award season at the time because it was being considered for a bunch of awards. So I watched it just before the Oscar ceremony back in 2022, and I really enjoyed the movie. I find it's an unconventional romantic movie. It does not follow the conventions of the typical like rom com. I would say it leans heavily towards the more drama side. And I find it's more of a coming of age movie than the typical romance movie. And I thought everyone did a great job, like from the cast of the performances to the crew members of this movie. So I say this movie is worthwhile to watch. So that's pretty much my overall thoughts on this movie. So we could get into the highlights, essentially what we liked about this movie. Is there an aspect you want to share?
As you mentioned, I really liked, especially the acting of this
Mm-hmm.
movie. I thought it
Mm-hmm.
was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
The cast had great chemistry between them, so, which is very important, especially in a romance. You need to have a lot of chemistry so it can be convincing that
Mm-hmm.
those people are actually in love or having troubles. And they really made it realistic, not only on this chemistry, but also all of the troubles they had seemed very real and relatable. So it wasn't just a regular rom com, it was something very grounded. And that's one of the things that I found most interesting about this movie. And I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things that I didn't mention, I'm not a big fan of romances. So for a romantic movie to catch me, it's a very rare thing. And this
Wow,
one really caught me.
wow, that's great to hear. Yeah, for me, like I don't mind romance movies just as long as it's well written. Because Like absolutely, like those movies have tend to follow a particular formula, but I love how like if movies like these it tries to reinvent the genre to make it fresh. So yeah, that's great. Like that you find it enjoyable, like as a romance movie.
Yes, I found it very. eh, I think that was one of the biggest aspects of it. It doesn't follow the whole traditional. Oh, they. Especially one of the things that I dislike the most is the enemies to lovers things. They hate each other for no apparent reason, and then they start falling in love. There is this story between the characters that they actually have something that unites them, something
Hmm.
that connects them, that makes them like each other. So it feels real, it feels natural. The whole story between the whole story of how they fall in love feels natural. The whole story of how they fall apart feels natural. Everything is very natural. So it makes it really real, and the drama, one of the biggest the plot twist in the end, it was caught me off guard. And it made sense. It actually made sense, but it did catch me off guard. I won't lie. But it was really interesting that I really liked it, this whole part. And I also, in some points, I made some notes for that. In some points, I liked it that it reminded me a bit. I don't know if you've watched it, probably did, A Marriage Story.
I haven't
Where,
seen that one.
oh no, it's some. It has a very similar vibe to that. It's a more dramatic, very much more dramatic, but it has a very grounded, real story that is things just go to hell sometimes.
Okay.
Bro, marriage is not just a bed of roses all of the time. People have problems and they tend to find different ways to solve it. And this is what made me so interested in this story. This is what made me like this story so much.
That's great. Like yeah, because I've heard about Marriage Story, but I definitely do want to check out that movie. I've heard great things about that movie, so that I'll add it to the watch list for sure. But yeah, like as you say, it's nice that with this movie, in terms of the romance, like it's not like cookie cutter where everything is like sunshine and rainbows. It shows like relationships take a lot of work. Like you're always going to have your ups and downs, and you just as couples you have to make sure that, you know, like you're being honest with each other. And I think with all of that makes the relationship stronger. I would say like a highlight, I liked how like with our protagonist Julie, she is a mess essentially, because throughout this movie she's pretty much like unsure in terms of her career choices, because we've seen her gone from being a doctor to a writer and a photographer, and she frequently changes her hairstyle. So it seems like she's either like she's distracted, because you see she's distracted by either the social media or technology around her, or like with the different people that she encounters throughout this movie. So I kind of do like that, even though some may find her to be a bit problematic. I like how, in ways, she's not like uncertain in terms of her choices, because you just never know, like if those choices end up being the right one.
Yes, I actually really liked that, especially
Hmm.
when it comes to not on her professions, and
Hmm.
that affects her relationships with everyone, including her family, and then her family, the pressure that other people put on her relationship too, not only her lovers and herself, but all the people around her. The typical, oh, what about kids? And all of that. And it's just, I liked it how they reacted to that, the different reactions from different people. and how she reacted to that, how she
Mm-hmm.
reacted to other people, because every single turn it was a different reaction she had. At some point she was, oh yeah, yeah, I'm going to do this, and then maybe not, or will I like that this uncertainty of decisions too. I guess it makes her human.
Yeah, absolutely. Another aspect I enjoyed is with I thought the opening shot of Julie, like how the movie starts off, was quite interesting because it starts off with this wide shot. It looked like a profile shot of Julie smoking, and then later on, it reveals she's at this event, like with Axel for his comic book. So I guess in a way, like it hints that she's not happy, like with her current state. Makes me wonder, like, is she in a way dealing with a midlife crisis or an existential crisis? Because we see as that full shot is revealed that she is not really happy settling down with Axel because he is interested in having kids, like having the family, while she is not. So I thought, yeah, that was an interesting way to start off the movie.
Yes, I like it. I like it too. I like
Hmm.
it not only that, but the transitions between chapters
Hmm.
that it not only in one way seemed very fluid, seemed
Yeah.
very natural, but also marks the difference between the chapters. So it was a
Hmm.
very good idea, and it was very
Hmm.
well done too.
Yeah, yeah, because I thought like the way that the film is structured into 12 chapters, a prologue and an epilogue is interesting choice because I'm not sure if this is the director's trademark or if this was a choice made specifically for the film. But I found like with regardless of those, like I thought like the structure was well paced and nicely written. So I thought, yeah, I didn't mind that choice.
Yes, me
Hmm.
neither.
Yeah.
There was only one caveat about that that bothered me, but we'll save it for later. It
Yeah.
was on the epilogue, right down in the end, that bothered me, but that's a low light
Okay.
for a
Okay.
later.
Yeah, we'll save it for that section. Another thing I liked with Axel, like he seems to be the hopeless romantic throughout this movie because he falls in love with Julie pretty much instantly when they first meet. Even though he tries to downplay it initially, it's kind of clear that he's really into her.
Yes, I liked Axel more than Evelyn.
Hmm.
I'm not sure. I can't pronounce his name. Maybe because he had more layers. He had
Yeah.
more story time. His stories was better told. He had more time, more details, so we
Hmm.
can get to know him better. And that was one point that we didn't have really much with Eden in the story. We have a lot of time with him. We know we can understand what is behind his words. Sometimes
Hmm.
he's saying some things that he doesn't mean just to make her happy. And we can see that because we got more time with him. And I really
Hmm.
liked what they did with his story.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of felt bad for him, like when Julie breaks up with him, but but you just never know with these things.
My point of view on that was it was inevitable
Yeah.
because they wanted different things from life. And
Hmm.
from what I noticed, they showed us at least, they never had a conversation before they started dating.
Yeah.
And it seemed that they started really quick without setting the board before them.
Hmm. Hmm.
So eventually that stone would come in their way. that would be a roadblock, and they would
Hmm.
have to figure out what they would do. So it would be a
Hmm.
problem at one point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to point out like how like that sequence was structured, like with Julie's daydream before the breakup was quite fascinating. With like everyone except for her, and I think and Evanide, essentially everyone is like stuck in a tableau essentially. So I just loved how that was well put together from a technical standpoint. And I do want to say it was hilarious that she moves the hand
And
of a woman to the guy's butt,
okay, but
which was hilarious. But I
I
just
like
loved
that
how,
touch.
yeah, I just loved how that.
Yes, I love that cherry on top in the end.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And another scene that I thought like did well in terms of a technical standpoint is when Julie is hallucinating. This was during the when she was at a party, I suppose, with Evanide, and
Yes.
I thought like how like the items were moving quite fascinating, and then she like sinks all the way to the floor. It was quite
Hmm.
fascinating. So in a way, like with how that was framed, like it plays like with reality. I thought like with the with her with the blood, I thought was a bit too much for me, but other than that, it's not bad of a sequence with that one.
It's matters of technical. I like the scene that she talks. The whole scene when she goes to Axel the first time in the hospital.
Yeah.
That she meets him there. He's playing air drums, and then they go get coffee, they start talking, and
Hmm.
all of that scene that it just gives you that both a sense of calm and dread, and it's like, okay, he's still trying to play it off like, oh, it doesn't matter, but we know it matters.
Yeah.
It's shot. It's shot in a way that if you make it makes you feel like it's sad, even though
Mhm.
they are joking around about old music and what he used to do, but you feel the sadness both through
Yeah.
the acting and the way they are filming in the under the trees,
Yeah.
that sad setting. It makes you feel sad for him, for both of them actually.
Yeah, yeah, like and just having like his character dealing with pancreatic cancer was quite heartbreaking watch, especially with all like the stuff he has been through with his personal life. But at least like he tries to make the best out of it despite his situation.
Yes,
Hmm.
it was a an interesting twist for me, and it was for me at least was well done.
Mm, absolutely. And it shows though, even though like they are friends at that point, like the feelings are still there, obviously, because he does admit that he still loves her, even though like the feelings are not mutual.
Yes,
Hmm.
because she doesn't say that she loves him, because I at least felt that she didn't say she loves him because she felt like he would misinterpreted that,
Hmm.
because she would say I love you like a friend, and he would understand that he still loves her, she still loves him, like
Hmm.
they used to love each other,
Yeah,
but it would she preferred not to say that.
absolutely. Another aspect that I like is when Axel his interview that he has like later in the movie when Julie watches it from the gym. I thought that sequence was quite hilarious because he essentially is trying to comment on how like art is being and how some people find it offensive, and in a way it provides like commentary on how art is portrayed today. So I thought that was quite fascinating.
Yes, I understood that in two ways,
Mhm.
and there was this way that I actually got, and there was one way that it was kind of like, okay, but this is seems to be a persona that he's portraying to the public because
Mhm.
his behavior when the cameras are off is quite different.
Yeah.
He doesn't behave like that. So much so that when he read her story, that story that she wrote about what not she likes, but the character, the fictional character likes,
Hmm.
it was a bit more in line what the women were saying on the interview, and he thought it was interesting. He thought he liked it. So it was a bit contradictory to what he was saying, what he was defending on the interview. So it seemed like there was the Axel that was at home the person and the persona of the artist of Axel.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I liked this idea that sometimes artists also have to create an image to sell their art that they are
Yeah.
creating. And sometimes that art has to be distorted to be sold. So
Yeah.
all this, all of that from one little debate was very well done.
Hmm. Absolutely, for sure. Another note that I had, I thought it was funny when Axel complains about the adaptation of his comic book to his family because he's very like nitpicky on the changes. He mentions at one point how like it sanitizes the politics and mentions like the shape of the butt at
But
one point.
he was very specific about the shape of the butt.
Yeah, yeah. So I thought that was hilarious, but I guess it shows that yeah that yeah there's always going to be nitpicks, so you can't please everyone.
You can't please everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
There will always be a butt removal.
Mm-hmm. So that's pretty much what I had like for this section. Is there anything else you want to add that we haven't covered?
No, there's one more thing that I don't know if it was intentional or just character traits they created. I like that they made this, as we're talking about, as I at least I saw a lot of social norms in in the movie, like
Mm-hmm.
especially in the matter of motherhood. They talk about having children, creating a family,
Hmm.
but they create this idea that marriage and relationships are a partnership. So you don't have like women have to do this, men have to do that. They have this companionship, especially with Axel.
Yeah.
Julie has a lot of companionship. They do everything together. And it's one of the reasons why she starts feeling, uh, feels like her relationship is fading out because she doesn't have that professional fulfillment that he has.
Yeah.
So I liked that that was shown that relationships have to be mutual and everybody has to be on the same place all the time, not only professionally but at home too. Everywhere all the time. We have to be together.
Absolutely. So we could get into the lowlights, essentially what we did not like about this movie. So for me, since this movie is called The Worst Person in the World, I was just wondering, is Julie really the worst person in the world? Like I don't agree with that if that is the case, because even though like she does disregard other people's feelings for her own, at one point, she told a woman at a party that her kids will be drug addicts after reading a study. Sure, sure, she acts out of impulse with decisions at times, but even though like she does have flaws, she does care about people at the end. Because like with Axel, like after learning about his diagnosis, she could have just ignored him and moved on. But instead, she decided to hang out with him until the end. So I don't think she is the worst person in the world.
Yes, I completely agree. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I
Yeah.
think you would have made a bit more of sense if, at least in the beginning, people would be more critical of her
Hmm.
actions.
Hmm.
If there was more resistance of her, for example, from her mother when she
Yeah.
decides to change her jobs.
Hmm.
Okay, so her mother would be more resistant and try to convince her to stay at her job for longer and all and on
Hmm.
and on. Things like that. These are small things that would show that people disapprove her behavior,
Hmm.
disapprove her choices. So we would have the feeling that, yeah, maybe she's not seen as the best person or not even a good person by others. But the worst person in the world seems a bit much.
Yeah. Yeah. She's not that bad though, but
Yeah, she's not perfect, but it's a little
yeah.
too much for her.
Yeah. But it could be left up into interpretation, but
Yes, definitely.
hmm. And so you mentioned that you had issues with the ending.
Yes. Ending in one of the chapters, I don't remember which one it was. That because at the ending of the epilogue, it shows her being accepting that people have different lives, different tastes, and
Hmm.
someone can have a family, can want to have a family, and she was focused on her career. So she accepts that because she sees her ex with the new actress and
Hmm.
having a baby. And my first thought about that was, are her exes the only people in town? Because every turn she gets, it's one of her exes.
It's probably a small town, that's why.
Yes. Because I get the message they were trying to pass, but
Hmm.
maybe with some other, considering that she's older now, she found herself professionally. Maybe she could have seen that in someone else. She could have seen that, oh, maybe family is not for me, but it's for some other person. She, it didn't have to be that person specifically. Like, but that was a small nitpick. I guess that was
Hmm.
my butthole in there.
Yeah. For me, like with the ending, I didn't really had any like harsh feelings towards it because it shows that she's satisfied in regards to her professional life. But if we're looking at, let's say, from a romantic genre lens, maybe the ending is not satisfying. Again, I don't really have any harsh critiques on that.
I, in a romantic lens, I honestly, as a non-romantic fan person, I think it was very fitting
Mhm.
because it seems like her trajectory was more towards a professional career and less towards a romantic life, and
Mhm.
she seemed to be pushing herself into romances when she should be focusing more on her career.
Mhm.
So it felt that way. So for me, even as a romance, it seemed okay. But
Yeah.
that was just a small nitpick that I had. I had to let it out. I had to. But I'm sorry. The one thing, the one thing I actually had a problem was I had mentioned before was that we didn't know. At least I didn't learn a lot about in Invid, like
Mhm.
her second boyfriend.
Yeah.
So when they start dating, they seem to have a lot of things in common,
Mhm.
but when they start breaking apart, it seems like, okay, she's kind of a not cool. She's kind of
Hmm.
a, but it doesn't really seem like there was that much of a disagreement of ideals like there was with Axel. Not
Yeah.
because they didn't show that, but because we don't know what his ideals were.
Yeah, for me, how I interpret his character, he's essentially the rebound, essentially. So for me, I felt like we're not supposed to take him too seriously because how can I say this? Because it seems like he was not too serious with his previous relationship with his girlfriend. So I didn't really think too much about his character, to be honest, because I thought of him more like as a fling, as a rebound, than a partner that wants to be serious, at least at that point in the movie.
Mhm. Okay,
Mhm.
it could have been an idea. That's why I missed
Yeah, yeah.
a bit more of him, a bit more of
Hmm.
information about him. But that's why I just felt a little bit. Okay, well, give me a bit more of information. All I know
Yeah,
is he doesn't want to have kids. She doesn't want to have kids, and he likes to serve coffee.
yeah, yeah. Because he's like younger than Julie, I suppose. So probably he has
Yes,
different priorities than
yes,
everyone else.
yes. But there were not that many lowlights.
Yeah, I had a few. So I thought the scene with Evanid and Julie when they're in the bathroom was weird. The fact that they're just watching each other pee, I'm just like, no, I don't need this.
I actually thought that scene was funny. I
Yeah.
was like, okay, this is high level relationship
Hmm.
without actually, because they were in a situation they were trying not to cheat, but they wanted intimacy, and that's the kind of intimacy you only have after dating for what, 10, 15 years. So
Hmm.
they were skipping the whole parts that would be considered cheating and going for the intimate parts that wouldn't be considered cheating. So it was weird, but I actually thought it was kind of cute. Like, okay, you're just playing husband and wife without even
Yeah.
knowing each other.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, like it's fun, but it was just weird for me. I was
Yes,
just like, no, no.
definitely weird.
Yeah. Another low light I had was when Julie and Axel visit his family, like at the beginning. It was weird, like when Axel told Julie that apparently she did not want to be there when they are together in bed. I did not get that vibe at all when she entered to visit the family. It seemed like she didn't mind to be there, essentially.
Kind of got that vibe in the beginning
Okay.
because, especially because she seemed to know that there would be children there and she was not comfortable around children.
Mm-hmm.
So I started to have the feeling, okay, she doesn't want to be with the kids if they were, so they're only the adults. So much so
Mm-hmm.
that by the end she was more comfortable because she started dancing because only the adults were there, and then somebody hits their head and all hell breaks loose. But
Mm-hmm.
she seems to not want to be, she seemed to me at least not want to be there because of the kids. Because
Mm-hmm.
kids would be there, would be surrounding her, and would raise the conversation of, oh, when will you have kids? She didn't want that interaction, so she didn't want to be there. That's what I got from her.
Mm-hmm.
But he seems like he knew that this would happen too.
Hmm. Yeah. So a final note that I had for this section is that at times there were voiceovers in this movie, and I just felt that was not necessary. An example was when Julie was celebrating her birthday with the family, and the voiceover essentially had like exposition on the family matters. I just felt for me it was not necessary.
Yeah, that reminds me that at some points they actually were narrating things that were happening.
Yeah.
So we were seeing it and they were telling us what we were seeing. So
Hmm.
not very necessary,
Hmm.
but as it didn't happen so often,
Hmm.
um, and I felt like sometimes I could have used a voiceover.
Yeah.
There were some moments that it would have been good to have some the little narration fairy there,
Hmm.
but there wasn't. So maybe next time balance a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Like either like include the voiceovers throughout or just don't have them at all.
Yes, it would be best.
Yeah, absolutely. So any final notes you want to share for this section?
No, I I liked it.
Hmm.
All the low lights I can remember now. Let me see if I wrote anything else. Because I had to remove my glasses because of the reflexes. I'm not reading well. Oh, maybe it could have been a little shorter, but then we would have to mash up some chapters, especially that one that talks about her second boyfriend
Hmm.
and his girlfriend. If
Yeah.
they mixed a bit with her relationship with Axel at that point, it could have been a little shorter, the movie,
Yeah.
because I really didn't feel like there was a need for one chapter just to talk about how his girlfriend found out that she was a native, had ties to natives and all of that. So
Yeah.
then he could end up in the party.
Hmm.
But maybe mixing that up. And I guess that's all
Okay.
for the lowlights.
Okay. So we could get into trivia. So here were some I was able to find. So the director Joachim Trier, he had a statement for the film. He says, quote, "For a long time I have wanted to make a film about love, one that goes a bit deeper than normal on-screen love stories, where everything is so simple. The story is so clear-cut, the feeling so admirably unambiguous. A film that will look seriously at the difficulties of meeting someone when you're struggling to figure out your own life, at how irresolute and uncertain even the most rational and otherwise self confident people can become when they fall in love, and how complicated it is, even for romantics, when they actually get what they have been dreaming about." So essentially, he, like, I think as we've mentioned, that he wanted to make the not unconventional, but like untraditional romance movie that makes the portrayal of relationships more from a, I don't know if realistic is the right word, but essentially tries to avoid like the cookie cutter, happy go lucky type of relationships.
Yes. Avoid the whole fantasy, the everything's going to turn out perfectly. Everything is perfect. Either everything is terrible or everything's perfect. No, there is an in between. There's always an in between. I think
Hmm.
he played really well in this middle ground.
Hmm.
Like nothing's extreme. It's there's a middle ground there that you can work with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think considering what he was planning to do, I think he succeeded at it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So the actress Renate Reinsve, who plays Julie, apparently she was ready to give up on acting to pursue a career in carpentry because she renovated a home and fell in love with woodwork. So apparently, after making this decision to quit acting, the director surprised her with an impromptu meeting where they talked about life, love, amongst other things because apparently they previously worked together in the movie Oslo August 31st, where she had a small role essentially in that movie. And apparently, based off that conversation, the director he decided to work on the script for this movie with the intention of the actress Renate to play the lead in it. I thought that's interesting.
Yes. Well, she can go on with carpentry. Next time she can do the design of the sets. No problem as long as she continue as the lead. It's
Mm,
okay. We can let you be. I'm sure someone will let her build the tables and the chairs. No problem. But act too. It's okay.
mm, mhm.
She's really good at it.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And I'm glad that she didn't quit acting because she was clearly talented in this movie, and she has gone on to work in many roles. So that's great for her.
Yes, absolutely. She was excellent.
So, so the comic book Gob that Axel is drawing in the film is actually drawn by the Swedish comic book artist Hans Allen Charlie Christensen. The art style and content is very similar to Christensen's own comic strip Arn Anka. Interesting.
Cool.
Yeah. And a final note so the actor that plays Axel, Anders Danielsen Lee, because he had a full frontal nude scene. This was when after him and Julie have sex. This was during the breakup scene. So apparently that scene was meant to be shown through the female gaze, the director said. He says, quote, "It was important to show because we are making a film about a young woman and her gaze. Sex scenes are often filmed from a male point of view. Not many male directors are aware of that. I think girls should be allowed to have some eye candy too." And he said the actor was pretty sporty about it and said, "Yeah, okay, I'm naked in that scene." The director added that it also enhanced realism because it occurs during a breakup scene. He says, "I try to make films about honest situations, and sometimes you're naked in those situations." Which
Sure.
is, yeah, absolutely.
It happens.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, lastly, we have this important question. Should this movie be rediscovered? So, what do you think, Juliana?
The comment of someone who doesn't like romantic movies, romantic rom-coms, and all of that. Yes, please watch this movie. It's a really good movie. And not only it's about romance and there's drama in it, but it's also a very reflective reflective movie. It makes you think about how situations can appear in your life and how are what are the possible ways you can react to this and how people can react to it. Maybe yes, it's fictional, but art influences life. That's the truth of
Hmm.
it. So we can help you understand a bit of what happens and how it can happen to you, how you can affect other people. And it's a very well made movie. It's a
Hmm.
really great story, masterfully acted. I loved the acting in this movie. So even though it's not my favorite genre, it's not. I loved this movie. I truly did. And thank you for suggesting it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I pretty much agree with you on all points. Yeah, I do recommend this movie. I say check it out wherever it's available. I believe it is available to purchase through the Criterion Store. I do have my Blu-ray copy of this movie, and yeah, like I would say, this movie is worthwhile. It's well written, solid performances, and yeah, just love how it's not the conventional romance movie. So please check it out.
Please, all of you.
Absolutely. So that pretty much concludes this episode of the podcast. So where people can find you, Juliana, on social media?
Well, I have an Instagram page. It's at Julie, Julilly, writes, all together. So that for now, that's the only social media I have.
Alrighty, so you could find me on Instagram, X, YouTube, and Linktree at Nomfanelo. You can find the podcast on Instagram, X, YouTube, and Linktree at RD Movies Pod. You can visit buymeacoffee.com/RD Movies Pod to donate to support the podcast. On Spotify app, you can answer the feature poll, leave a comment, and rate the podcast. On Apple Podcasts, you can leave a review and rate the podcast. You can submit questions, comments, or suggestions by email, which is rediscoveredmovies@gmail.com, to be featured on the after show, which will air after the season finale. And all the links for our handles will be available in the description. So, right. So, thank you, Juliana, for being a guest for this episode. Are there any final notes you want to share?
No, not really. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you for having me here and suggesting a great movie. I hope to see you soon.
Ready? Yes, you're welcome. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in and hope to catch you on the next one.